They say every young woman in our village, Yumwofia, is searching for a husband, but Ada was running a desperate race. She was beautiful, yes, but her heart was heavy with the shame of being left behind. Then came Mr. Perfect. Wealthy, polished, and ready to pay the bride price. Ada thought she had finally won. But I was the one who saw the empty shoes beside the altar. The shoes of a man who was there one moment and gone the next, leaving Ada and her mother heartbroken, confused, and utterly disgraced. This is the raw, deep-cut story of what Ada did next. How she stopped chasing a ring and started chasing her soul, and the unexpected way the village found the truth about that vanishing groom. If you know what it feels like to be judged for being single, this story is for you. Watch till the end.
My journey with Ada, the day the groom vanished. My name is Beezy, and I grew up across the path from Ada. I was the one who saw everything, the good, the bad, and the day the invisible spirits decided to pull the biggest joke on our village. You see, Ada was not just a girl looking for a husband. She was obsessed. Every single day that passed, her mama would remind her, with those sad, heavy sighs, that her younger sister was already planning for a second child, and Ada was still here, wasting good fertilizer on a barren field. That pressure, that shame, it was heavy. It made Ada forget her good sense. The unsettling part, it wasn't the noise. It was the silence. It was the silence that fell over the entire church when Mr. Kenneth, the one Ada called Mr. Perfect, was supposed to step forward and place the ring on her finger. He was a big, wealthy man from the city. He drove a black car that swallowed dust and spoke English that sounded like it came straight from the radio. He was everything Ada, and more importantly, Mama, had been praying for. To get him, Ada had borrowed money she couldn't repay for the clothes, and she had ignored the small, quiet voice in her heart that kept telling her something was not quite right with Kenneth's eyes. When the priest asked him to step forward, he didn't move. I was sitting right there, just behind the front row. Kenneth was standing stiffly. Then, a strange wind, one of those dry, hot winds that don't make sense indoors, swept through the church. The candle flame didn't flicker, it just went out. And then Kenneth was gone. Not running, not walking, just gone. The expensive, shiny patent leather shoes he was wearing stood perfectly straight on the floor, empty. His suit, too. The groom had vanished, leaving only his clothes behind, like a snake shedding its skin. I rushed forward with Mama. We touched the empty shoes. They were warm. This was not a dream. This was a deep, unholy shame. Ada just stood there, her beautiful white gown now looking like a shroud. The shame was worse than fire. Mama cried for 3 days, saying that Ada must have offended an ancestor. The village whispered that Kenneth was not a man at all, but a spirit who just came to embarrass them. Ada, desperate to fix the shame and finally get a husband, any husband, went completely off the path. She started doing things that were against her true spirit. First, she visited a new prayer house where the prophet promised to tie down a man for her with a special 7-day fast and a huge fee. She came back tired, skinny, and angrier. She thought the solution was outside herself, in some magic spell or expensive ritual. Then, she decided the problem must be her looks. She spent all her remaining money on light skin creams and expensive, uncomfortable hair extensions. She began ignoring all her old friends, including me, Beezy, because we couldn't help her find a rich man. She only went to the big town markets, chasing expensive cars, looking for validation in mirrors and wallets. It was one evening when she was crying silently in the kitchen, not for a man, but because she had no money to buy food for Mama, that the turning point came. Mama, finally calm, told her this proverb: the eye that is always focused on the distant goat will not see the snake coiled at its own feet. The next morning, Ada went to the market to try and sell some old cloth. She wasn't looking for a man, just for pennies. She met an old woman, Elder Neka, the one everyone called Mama Isioma, who sold herbs but never spoke much. Ada wasn't looking for a prophecy, but Neka called her over. She didn't talk about Kenneth or husbands. She looked Ada straight in the eyes and said, in a voice like dry leaves rustling, "The path to your greatness is in the ground you walk on, not in the sky you look up to." She gave Ada a strange task. In the center of the village, there was an old community well that everyone used, but it had fallen into disrepair. The stone lip was cracked, and the surrounding area was always muddy. Neka told Ada, every morning, before the sun is hot, go and care for the water that feeds the community. Do this for 40 sunrises. This was Ada's true spiritual challenge. It wasn't about prayer or fasting. It was about service and simple, physical labor. Ada, having nothing left to lose, agreed. For 40 days, I watched her. She swept the dust away. She used her own little savings to buy cement to fix the well's lip, and she ensured the communal buckets were clean and kept in order. She wasn't looking for praise. She was just focusing on a task that wasn't about her own need. She stopped wearing the heavy makeup. She tied a simple wrapper around her waist. She stopped searching for men at the town market and started talking to the women who came to draw water. She listened to their worries, their problems, and their joys. The change in Ada was like watching a dry plant suddenly drink water. Her eyes were no longer frantic. She had a new kind of peace. She smiled because she was genuinely helping, not because she was trying to attract attention. She had found her moral compass again. Her worth was not in being Mrs. Somebody, but in being Ada, the useful one. Her culture taught her that a woman's strength is in her character and her contribution to the home and community, and she was now living that truth. One day, a quiet, hard-working carpenter named Kalu came to the well. Kalu was always around, but Ada had always dismissed him as too common, too focused on sawdust and wood. He had watched her fix the well. He had seen her patient dealings with the elderly women. He walked up to her, not with a fancy car or a gold chain, but with a perfectly carved wooden sign he had made for the well that read, "Our water, our strength." He didn't talk about marriage. He talked about fixing the broken fence around the market square, something that needed to be done for the community. Ada listened, focused on the project, not the men. They worked together for 3 months. They were building a community. In the process,
they built a connection that was honest and real. When Kalu finally approached Ada's parents, he didn't come with borrowed wealth. He came with respect, a clear plan for their future, and a reputation of being a man who fixed what was broken. Ada and Kalu's marriage ceremony was simple but filled with a joy that felt complete. Everyone was there, not to see the expensive show, but to celebrate 2 people who had found each other through honest work and humble service. As for Mr. Kenneth, the vanishing groom, We eventually heard the full story. He was a fraud, a deeply in-debt conman who used borrowed clothes and a fake car to lure wealthy-looking women. When the church ushers, who were plainclothes police, recognized him and moved to arrest him right before the ring ceremony, Kenneth realized he was trapped. He panicked, used some trick to slip out of his clothes in the small commotion, and escaped through a back door, never to be seen again. The spirit that left the shoes was not a curse on Ada, but a sign that the life she was chasing was an empty costume. Ada finally understood. Her greatest gift was not her beauty, but her integrity. The day she stopped searching for a rich husband and started working on her own spirit, the right kind of men, one of peace and purpose, found her. That's the journey I witnessed, my friends. And that is why, whenever I see a young woman running too fast, I always remember Ada and the empty shoes of Mr. Perfect. That is a powerful story. The journey Ada takes from shame and desperation to peace and genuine connection offers deep lessons that are highly relevant today. Here are the moral lessons of the story for spiritual, cultural, and moral growth. The spiritual growth lesson is the source of self-worth. The core spiritual lesson Ada learns is that true worth is internal, not external. Trust in the path, not the prize. Do well to add yours in the comment section. Thank you for watching. Let me know your thoughts. We encourage comments and discussion in the comment section. Guess what? Another story is coming up in a few days. Do well to hit the notification bell to be notified, and do subscribe and give a thumbs up to like and encourage this channel, Evelyn Sampson TV. Feel free to share and invite your friends. Thank you once again for being a part of our storytelling journey.